the start of our presentation. I will quickly go through the slides. And the reason for this is that we really value our time. Carrie, Zarraonandia, John Togasaki, and Joe Grech, who you cannot see because I think we're having some camera issues, but he is live in person as well. And I'm going to skip ahead and get started. This is recorded. And if you do have any questions throughout the session, at the bottom of your Zoom link, there is a Q&A that you can type in, and we'll be reviewing that. Hopefully, we'll answer some of the questions that were asked on the registration through this presentation. But anyways, let's get started. I'll click through. Okay. And so first off, I want to introduce the junior competition team. This is all the people that does a lot of the stuff behind the scenes and my partners in crime. On the call today is our senior manager, Beth Workinall, and also Trey Asbury, and he will go through a little bit about junior team tennis because he's the expert on that one, and I don't want to misspeak either. So anyways, you'll see the rest of these people, but I'm going to, in the interest of time, let's just keep moving forward. So let's meet the panelists. We've got their pictures there. We've got Joe Grech, John Togasaki, and Carrie Zarraonandia. And Carrie, I hope I said that right, but I usually call her Carrie Z. I could read through all of this, but you'll get the slide. I just want to emphasize that there's a lot of experience here, experienced coaches and players in this panel, on this panel. And I would say if we added up all the years they've been coaching, probably goes over 100+ years total. Okay. Then you throw me in there, that's another 25+ years. But regardless of that, they have been through the whole gamut of coaching and have a lot of experience, and I'm just so happy they are here today to share that with us. Now, the play pyramid. Everything to me is in shapes. I like geometry, but if we really want to start at the level where you're just introduced to tennis, and that could be any aspect, whether it's hitting with your friend, just going out and whacking some balls against the wall, any clinics, group lessons, this is where it all starts. Then you want to become more organized in the play pyramid, and that's where junior team tennis, again, a big fan of that, having coached teams myself, and Trey will get into that. Junior circuits, another one of my products that I manage. Oh, I forgot to say team challenge down at the bottom, but more importantly, the junior circuits there, that's the level before tournaments. We call that pre-tournaments. And then you'll get into the tournament space, and that's other members of our team that will discuss that, and high performance in college. All good stuff to aspire to, but we really want to focus at the recreation level and getting the kids started. So we talked about the Net Generation PlayTracker that is developed by our national office and volunteer group. And it talks about this red, orange, green, and yellow ball. And if you don't know, back in the days, probably 2021, I think, it was adopted by the International Tennis Federation to use red, orange, and green balls for the 10 and under players. And you'll notice there's different racket lengths. A couple are missing. My favorite racket, the 17-inch, I call it the baby racket, is missing, and the 27-inch adult racket is missing off of here. But there's a lot of resources that are available for you. We want to emphasize it's really important to use the right sized equipment, ball, court, and racket when working with beginning players. And you notice I didn't say youth because it can be used on adults too. Okay. And then I'm going to inundate you with a whole bunch of information. You have 10 seconds to read this over and pass the test. Just kidding. There is a whole bunch of player competencies developed, a foundation of skills that we want to build upon. I'm not a fan, but we can talk to the coaching panel about skipping steps in the competencies. I know there's some controversy on that, but there's 4 stages for red, 3 competency stages for orange, and 2 for green. And I believe our national office is also working on one for yellow. But this talks about the athlete, the player, and the person, all components to being a healthy tennis player. And they focus on the head, the feet, the hands, the game and character. Obviously, at green, when you're playing at a full court, we expect a lot more maturity out of that player versus a 6-year-old or a beginning player that's just learning the rules. I'm going to move forward and go into the product line quickly. The team challenges I talked about. This is really for your beginner players, but can be used for other levels. But it's a fun product. It's designed to focus on the social part and the sportsmanship part and just learning the game. And we do allow modified serves in this. We'd love to have a lot more. And we're getting there, but it's like a 1 to 2 hour commitment. You learn, you learn to score, but if you don't, it's okay. And the focus again is on fun and just learning the game. I'm going to turn it over to my to Trey, who is our manager in junior team tennis, and he can talk about one of my favorite products.
Perfect. Okay, thanks, Chris. So, junior teen tennis, it's a great program. So, basically, what it is teams will travel to play each other in their area. It's basically a team tournament every weekend, and it's an 8 week long season with playoffs and an end of season section championship. We have 6 areas that are involved. We have East Bay, Marin, Sacramento, San Francisco, Santa Cruz, Monterey, South Bay Peninsula, and we are still growing. So the spring timeline for next year is going to be March 8th through May 9th, and every area will have a predetermined match date and time when they play their matches. Players are expected to know how to serve overhead, rally, and keep score. And if you would like to do a local league and run your own team league in-house, we also offer that as an option. You would just need to have 12 to 16 players per division. So for example, 12 or 16 green, yellow ball, or even orange players. And if you want more info, you can just email us at jrteamtennis@norcal.usta.com. And then divisions offered, we offer 10U orange all the way up to 18U yellow. For the spring season, we'll offer 18U girls due to high school rules. So what do you need to do? What do you need to do to form a JTT team? So what you need is a safe play approved captain. You'll need 2 courts for 2 hours. You'll need a minimum of 4 players. We recommend having about 6 throughout the season, just in case a player can't make it for a given match. All players will need a USTA membership, which is free for juniors. And new captains, if you want to get involved in JTT, your first 4 players will play for free if they've never done JTT before. And you'll also get a $25 gift card and fleece or jacket at the very end of the season. So it's a nice little deal. And then you can go to norcalteamtennis.com for more information. And before we jump to the next slide, I will say there was a question about individual competition versus JTT or team events. So JTT, it's a great program. It's a mix of social and competitive elements. You're basically playing 4 singles and 4 doubles every weekend. And then versus a team challenge, which is fun, it's social, it's only an hour to 2 hour time commitment. And then a junior circuit, you're going to be playing singles. It's a little bit more competitive and more individualized. So that's a difference between those programs. Okay, moving on, Chris. Okay, so for JTT, we use World Tennis Number, or WTN as it's also known. So we go based on a scale from 1 to 40, 1 being the Nadals of the world, and 40 being an absolute beginner. And for JTT, we go by a player's singles WTN, and that's where we determine if they're going to be intermediate or advanced. And green and yellow results will go towards a player's WTN. And there's also a confidence factor attached to this rating. So there's low, medium, and high. So for example, if I play one match throughout the year, I'm going to get probably a low confidence factor attached to my rating versus if I played the entire season, maybe 20 or 30 matches, that rating would be more of a high confidence rating. So that's how that rating system works. And if you want to watch this video when we send the presentation deck, you can check it out. It's 2 minutes. It covers the entire rating scale for WTN. All right, I'm going to pass it back to you, Chris.
Okay. And I encourage everyone to watch that video. It'll answer a lot of questions about the world tennis number and kind of show you the pathway too for our youth. I'm just going to cover the higher level, I guess. I'll put that in air quotes for orange, green, and yellow ball player, beginning yellow ball players. It's the junior circuit, so the pre-tournament. Again, as Trey mentioned, it's not a whole lot of time commitment. It's just a half a day. Once players get into tournaments, the true tournaments, then you're looking at a day or more of time commitment. It's a little more serious. But anyways, the junior circuit is just a good introduction. You can um, you can find that on our calendar on our website. But there is for the 10 and under players PlayTracker points awarded. And then all participants will get something out of the junior circuit. This has been really important for us. You'll either get a first or second place medal or a chance at the treasure chest if you don't win. But it's a lot of fun. Yes, I know.
Sorry.
Joking. Okay.
So we have early development camps. It's our EDC. It's our entry, our first level of the camp pathway. It's for our advanced orange and green ball players. It's usually a 4-hour event, half the time being part camp, the other half being a junior circuit, which Chris just mentioned what that is. And that's what players use to towards their PlayTracker and get PlayTracker credit for that. In 2025, we plan to host some standalone camps in the first part of the year, spread them out across the section so people have more opportunity to participate. So these will be one-off, one-day type of events. And then we'll utilize that maybe performance from those camps and PlayTracker participation, how people are doing to make selections for our 3-part fall series, which will be August, September, October this year, which again, players get credit for the PlayTracker for that as well. So like everything else, players must know how to serve, overhead, rally, keep score, and be more on the advanced side, especially for the fall series. The camps also have the opportunity to provide parents with an interactive parent session, which is a really great part. So if you're a coach or a parent that's on this call, it's really great to encourage your players to participate in it. They learn a lot, players and parents the same. So we don't have our 2025 scheduled exact dates just yet, but feel free to reach out to Lonnie Ray Green. You can see her email address listed here. She'll have more information about an EDC and can be able to send you more information as that becomes available for the new year.
Okay,
Back
thank
to you,
you.
Chris.
Yep. And I am going to stop sharing now because it's drum roll, please, time to stump the panelists. Okay. And and let's see. I'm just going to ask some questions, and if this generates more questions from our for you viewers, then please go ahead and type that in the Q&A box, and we'll get to that throughout the session. Anyways, like I had mentioned, the red, orange, green has been around since 2012. Prior to that, some coaches were using some modified balls, but I believe everyone started getting on board in 2012. That's 12 years ago. So for all the panelists here, do you recall, dig back in your memory, when you started using the ball colors, not the yellow ones, because obviously we were all doing yellow prior to that. And what did you observe? So I'll start off with, I'll put Joe on the line because he's not seen, and then we'll go around.
Thank you, Chris. I was perhaps the most staunch, why are we doing this kind of thing. And I just realized after about 20 minutes that why isn't everybody in the world working with this system? And I realized, why do you have 4 and 5-year-olds trying to hit a tennis ball that bounces over their head when you feed it to them on a 6-foot court? And I just understood immediately, oh my gosh, you've got a 36-foot court, you've got for red ball, you've got a 60-foot court for orange ball, then you got a regular court, but for green ball, but oh my goodness, the ball doesn't bounce as high. So, and it doesn't go as fast. So kids get more time to set up. This allows us as tennis teaching professionals to start with somebody at red ball, 36-foot court, and generate the same swing path that they'll use when they're 18 plus or whatever, and adults. It never changes. The swing path doesn't change because the ball bounces into the hitting area. And then from that point on, I was a complete convert and been there ever since, run lots of different programs, as you guys at USTA know.
Okay, Joe, I'm going to turn it over to Carrie because she's nodding in agreement there. So, Carrie, you want to add more to that?
Absolutely. I was in New York at the Hyatt, and it was a USTA sponsored event, and I saw the English gal, Ann Pankhurst, do a presentation in the ballroom on the carpet with a caution tape, and my world was rocked. All of a sudden, she was playing a tennis match on the carpet, on the ground, and it was all of the above. It was the swing path, it was the smash and hit and roll and recover back to the center, find the open space on the court, having the clothespins keep the score. 4 points equals a game. One giant clothespin equals, it was just a tennis match on the ground for 5-year-old kids. So I've been doing that ever since. It's just a world. Why doesn't everybody do this all the time? I have my 5-year-olds playing tennis matches. It just happens to be on the ground. Yeah. So it was quite amazing. She was a groundbreaker for sure.
Okay, and we're going to turn it off to John Togasaki and see what he has to say about this whole ball color thing.
Okay, so yeah, I was actually introduced to it much earlier. So back in 2000, I was asked to do a booth for the USTA at the Tet Festival, the Vietnamese New Year's at the Santa Clara County Fairgrounds. And so we had like foam balls, red balls, the small rackets, and I had just done a high school coaches workshop with Todd Disley where we were introduced to the progression balls as well. So I took that and it was pretty amazing because the kids were, I just gave them a quick intro and then they were off rallying. And one big thing with especially the red balls is that, or actually all the balls, is that the kids can do partner work, right? They can hit together, where with yellow balls, you're constantly, the coach is dedicated to hand feeding or racket feeding to a line of kids, where all the kids are hitting at the same time, doing partner work so they could learn a lot faster. They're actually rallying. They're learning not just to send the ball, hitting the ball, but they're actually learning how to recover. And so they're really learning how to play tennis with those progression balls, where with the yellow balls, they're basically just learning how to get in position and hit. And so one of the biggest things with that is that when you're taking a class, you can practice in between classes with your friends, where with the yellow ball, you go, oh, my forehand's really good. And then you go to practice with somebody and you can't hit a single forehand. You're spending 90% of your time picking up balls, right? So that's one great thing, is that you can do the same thing you're learning in class with your parent or with your friends with those progression balls, because they're much slower and much easier to hit.
Great, thanks, John. I think we're all in favor of this red, orange, green. I've noticed. Okay. And I know we've done it with adults too, beginning adults, because they'll obviously move from one ball color to the next one faster, but even beginning adults to start at red ball. Okay, second question. The pathway has certain points, which I briefly showed, for 10 and under players to move to yellow. And I was at a coaching conference, and Mike Barrow, who some of you might know, but I think he's now at the John McEnroe Academy, but he's really into the working with the younger kids. And someone asked the question, well, how do you know when it's time to move? And he asked the question back, does the ball control you, or do you control the ball? And Carrie, I'm going to put you on the spot for that one. What do you think? A good time to move?
I think when I read that, I've heard that before, but that's, again, That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to have these younger developing athletes and developing tennis players the ability to construct a point and control the point and control the ball. So if we start on the ground, we're looking for that open space. We're trapping the ball on the ground, smashing it and sending, and then like John said, we're receiving it. So that's the first control of the ball. And then we go with the orange and we go a little bit bigger. We are controlling the ball to construct the point. So I could make my point over and over again in each scenario. But I find the orange to green transition very difficult for my little kids because we've got 9 feet on each side of the court bigger, and now all of a sudden their world is just getting too big for them, and now they're hitting out of the strike zone. So are we controlling the ball when we're hitting out of the strike zone? I would venture the guess would be no. The answer would be no. So that's where I really want the kids to feel that hitting pocket. How do you construct that shot to construct the point, to construct the game, and then there's our match.
Okay, John, you had a daughter, Stephanie, that
I
has
have a daughter.
gone from red to orange to green to yellow. So how did you know, maybe from a parent's experience, when it was the right time to move her on?
So I actually was really careful with her not to move her along too quickly. I mean, she was never getting, she never got too serious. I mean, she's playing, yellow ball tournaments now, but she always had all kinds of other activities too. So she didn't have too much time for tennis. So I just bring her along at her own pace. So I kept her at red ball for a really long time until she was really competent at the red ball, then moved her to orange, and that was for a really long time. Actually, with green ball, it wasn't that long, right? She moved from green ball over to yellow pretty quickly because green ball is a lot more similar to yellow. But it was because she spent so much time at red and orange that green was so quick because all her fundamentals were there. She was able to rally, able to recover, get to the ball, and also having the smaller courts too, where with red you don't have to move as much, and so because you don't have to move as much, you're able to get to the balls, and because you're able to get to the balls, you're able to use a little bit more angles and move the ball around a little more. I think when people go red, orange, green, yellow too quickly, you notice that all the rallies are just straight down the middle, right? They're not using the whole court because they can't get to the balls, and when they do, they're just sending it right down the middle. They don't know how to use the angles. So you can usually tell the players who've gone through the progressions red, orange, green, yellow versus people who just move to yellow way too fast.
Okay, and Joe, you want to wrap it up on this when to move?
Absolutely. I'm going to echo both what Carrie and John say in that, control of the ball is huge. Movement, my sentiment and what I've told kids from the very beginning, this game is played from the ground up. You need to be able to move to the ball and control the ball. And so even at red ball, I love to see kids hitting away from their opponent. Make your opponent move. Who hits the ball better on the move than they do when they're stationary? And so I emphasize that. But one of the other things is we haven't really talked about, even in red ball, I have my kids serve. I have them serve overhand. If they don't make it, well, they can work on a second serve. But in order to play matches with kids, and I do a match play all the time, I have those kids do drop, bounce, hit, so we can play points and get them going. But everything I've heard so far is wonderful, and I'm okay with everything.
Okay, Joe. And I think John jumped ahead already with that next question. We talk about those competencies.
Right.
I think John emphasized those foundational skills.
Sure.
And you want to add a little bit more to that, John, of why how important it is to have all those skills at a red and orange level before jumping up to green and yellow?
Sure. I can just go with, yeah. So when you're starting with red, just in my experience watching players progress from red, orange, green, at red, a lot of it is just getting confidence in swing, in your swing and making contact with the ball. The nice thing about red is that it's a big ball, it goes slower, and because it's so big and light, it doesn't matter where on the racket you're hitting it as long as your racket is pointed in the right direction. So you learn how to keep your racket pointed in the right direction, and then you need to take a bigger swing because the red ball doesn't go as far. And so these balls actually teach you how to do a proper swing instead of just tapping the ball, right? People who start with yellow, they tend to just tap the ball because if they take a big swing, then it's going into their partner's head and going over the fence into the bleachers all over the place. But with red, it's much easier to control it as long as your racket's pointing in the right direction. You're able to be successful. And then once you move to orange, you've got that, you start to get that ball more in the center of the racket. So you go with orange, and then as you progress with orange, when you go to green, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is because the orange ball bounces lower, when you move to green, all of a sudden it's bouncing higher. You're used to the lower orange ball, and so you're brushing up in order to get to the green ball, and all of a sudden you have topspin, right? And so for a lot of people that start with yellow or have these flat strokes, you watch the people progress, and they're able to much more easily get topspin on their shots because that progression just kind of helps with that.
Okay, so John, what I'm hearing from you, you could have topspin even at a red ball level, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, it's just makes it much easier because the ball's moving a lot slower.
Okay. And Carrie, you want to add to that about that whole foundation of skills and why that's so important?
Absolutely. I first was introduced to all the competencies when I was first chosen for early development camp coach, and Todd Disley was my mentor. He just broke it down so distinctly in progression or regression. And we have these parameters that National has put to us, and they're a very high standard. They are extremely high. And so there's a little bit of leeway with these competencies, but if the parents or the kids say, why can't I play green ball? And I'll open the little app on my phone and say, well, let's look at this for a minute. And I don't mean to shoot them down, but this is really difficult stuff. But this is how we get to the better player. So I'll just pick one or two things on the competency and we'll work on that. So it's basically a lesson plan. I have lesson plans at the top of just right off my phone if I would just want to do it. And then the kids can see that. Then the class can see all of that. And now they're holding each other accountable to what we're really looking for. And then they progress, and then we go forward. And if they don't progress, then we regress. And that's also with the coach's mind. I think that's what these competencies all are about, is progression and regression.
Great. Thanks, Carrie. And Joe, I'm going to actually have I'm skipping around because I'm just trying to get through
I want to go back and thank Carrie and John because that's exactly what I would have said about competency. I mean, that's how I run my program, guys. And I mean, I don't push anybody too quickly. End of story. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Joe. And we are all parents, all three of the coaches, myself, and my biggest compliment is my daughter now wants to coach as well. So that's flattery. Okay, and help other kids learn tennis. But
send her to me, Chris.
Yeah. Okay. She's a lefty. Okay, so here's the deal. There are many players out there, and I've experienced it just from parents contacting me that don't have a coach. What type of advice could you give to them? Joe, you want to start with that?
Oh my God. As far as that is concerned, it's a little tough. What do you do with somebody that doesn't have a coach? Okay. you look at their level. You personally have 34 years of experience teaching. And at that point, you kind of know where they're at. But with some, you have to deal with parents, you have to deal with personalities, professionalism, and those are difficult things to do. And so when you're talking to parents about that, my first thing is if they're young, we start with team challenges and we go right through where we're, the entire progression. You go to team challenges, they make it up to JTT, then they go to the next level and the next level. And I think that's what we want to encourage, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. I'm watching time because I've been the timekeeper.
Oh,
John, thank you, Joe.
you're welcome.
I want to see what John has to say about a player that does not have a coach. What could they do? What could that parent do?
So I guess there's a couple ways of looking at it. One is like, they may not have a private coach, but they could be taking classes, right? So, the way we do our classes, we have a curriculum, so it doesn't really matter which coach you have, right? It'll be familiar, no matter which class you're taking, as long as you're taking the right level. And the way we do our classes, we do these progressions so that a parent who's watching it can easily do the same thing with their son or daughter. And so that's basically one of the things I recommend is take a class from someone who knows how to teach the red, orange, green balls. And if they're doing it the right way, it's not rocket science. It's something that the whole reason it's so good is, like I said before, is that they can actually practice with their parents in between classes. And so if you just take a couple classes, the parents will get a good head start on how to teach their kids, right? It's like not like the yellow balls where you need a skilled coach to be able to feed it the right way in order for them to be successful. With the red balls, another nice thing about red balls is that if you have a bigger player like a parent hitting to a smaller player, the ball's not bouncing over their head, and then it doesn't take spin well. And so if you hit it with a lot of spin, by the time it reaches your kid, it's not going to have that spin. And so they're able to still get the ball back, and you're able to successfully give or get rallies going even without someone really experienced at playing with younger kids.
Good point, John. I had an old coach that always said, practice, practice, practice. Okay. Carrie, what would you tell a parent or a player that doesn't have a coach what they should be doing or
Well,
evaluating?
I tell you, it's right at our fingertips. It's the Net Generation portal. It's for coaches and players, and the videos that National has put out are just absolutely perfect. And the nice part about it is the child could watch the video with the parent, and then they go do it, or the kids could watch. They could pick the video and the exercise. Then the kids have the autonomy over their practice. So it's right there. Yes, we all want to be coaches and want to be employed, but it's out there. The videos are just very well made. 1 minute maybe tops. Let's go do it and let's play.
Okay. Last question because we're gonna see if we can take some questions from the attendees. I don't know how many we have right now. I think we have in time. Okay. How would you we talk about tennis lessons and clinics. People do that, but how important is it to have that play component? Is match play really important for the development of a player? And Carrie, I'm going to go with you first on that one.
Match play is important because it's a game. This is tennis and it's a game, and we keep score and we win or we lose, just like checkers, just like tic-tac-toe. So it's learning how to compete, learning how to put all of the skills together, and play a match. But it starts with hitting one shot over the net at a time. And like I said, then you win a point. and you win 4 points. And then so it just progresses. But we can frame matches in any way we'd like. And that's the beauty of junior team tennis is it's somebody wins to get to four before somebody else, or it's a 20-minute match. So it's important that we have some sort of container on this is a game and we compete to the best of our ability. And what we can control is our effort and our attitude.
Nice. And just a quick segue, Carrie is also a trainer for Positive Coaching Alliance. Great organization. When we share out the slide, we'll share out a link to that. And that's something useful for coaches, parents, anyone who wants to get involved in sports. And I'm going to turn it over to John and let him talk about the importance
Okay,
of
so
match play.
yeah, so for me, it depends a little bit. You don't necessarily have to have matches. It depends on the kid, right? Because sometimes they're not really interested in playing matches or tournaments. They're just interested in having fun and improving. And so there's kind of different tracks. And so for the kids who just want to play, right, they can just rally and have fun and really at that age, as long as they're having fun, that's really what you want. That's, back to my daughter. That was one of the main things. I wanted to keep her interested. I didn't want her to get burnt out and put too much pressure on her. And so the idea is trying to bring her along as fast as possible in order to give her more opportunity, but at the same time making sure she's having fun, because that's the way she's going to play tennis for life, right? We don't, that's really the most important thing because tennis is a sport for a lifetime. And So for the competitive player, yeah, definitely, like Harry said, it's important to get that match play in. You learn how to put the things you learn in classes into practice, and then you can come back to your instructor or coach, and that's how you're going to find out. Oh, I thought I knew how to do this, but yeah, I played in a tournament and it wasn't so easy. What can I do? And so they start bringing more questions and growing faster because they're getting exposed to more situations where they may not be as successful, and then they can work with a coach to work on those things.
Okay, and Joe, because I know you do team challenges and junior team tennis, I know you're into match play, but do you have any thoughts about that of the play part as
Oh
part
yeah,
of
a little
learning?
bit. I run a, as you probably know, Chris, every week I do a match play program for 90 minutes where I encourage between 16 and 20 of my kids to play matches against one another, against kids of equal ability. While we work in our private lessons, I'd say it's a 20-80 thing. We talk about matches and match play about 20% of the time. We work on fundamentals, we work on technique, we talk about how to play the game in our private lessons. But when we do our match play, we're out there playing against one another, and I'm observing that. That allows me as a coach to watch what they're doing in a match and then work on what we need to work on in our private lessons. And I think the combination of both of those things allows kids to have two roads to go to. They want to be advanced players. Okay, then you're going to have to do one thing. If you're going to be recreational players, and even to the point where they're going to be high school players, those kids, we can move into that group. Two separate groups, Chris. That's how I see that. You get some parents that really would like their kids to be playing college tennis. If that happens, that's not really something that I'm interested in doing. And I sent them to major tennis academies, which has happened in the past.
We've got 1 minute left. This is like this time goes so fast when I'm talking to all of you. It's like this fun group, like family, coaching family, that we could just
Oh,
talk
yeah.
all day about things. I'm going to open it up, and Trey, I believe, is monitoring any questions from the attendees. that we can answer right away?
Just some comments here. One comment is if you can sustain 100 plus balls in orange, it's time to move. I was wondering if anyone want to weigh in on that comment.
I would love to. Are you able to vary the height, the depth, spin, direction, and pace for 100? Then we're set. Go for green. Go for it.
Go for green.
All you. Those are 5 components of our controls. It's really important, not just hitting the ball.
Anything else?
I'm in agreement with that.
Okay. And last but not least, I'm just going to ask a quick question. What do you think about, because my daughter burned out at 10, but I wouldn't let her quit sports. I said, you had to do something. But she came back. And we chose basketball because it was a team sport. What do you, either any of you have like a favorite cross training sport that you recommend? And I'm sure you're not into early specialization here, any of the coaches, but you are. Go ahead. Go start, John.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, I totally agree. Like at the younger ages, cross training is really good, right? There's definitely things that you can get in the other sports that you can't get in tennis, and the other way around too. With my students, one of the most common one would be soccer, right? So you get a lot of hand-foot coordination with soccer, and you have a lot of hand-eye coordination with tennis. Although you get a little bit of everything with tennis, but definitely you get more of the hand-foot with soccer. And so and just the way I think those two sports are, there's a lot of complementary things that you can get from both of those things.
And Joe?
Well, my daughter played varsity softball, varsity soccer, and varsity tennis at Mission San Jose. And I coached there for a while, but not my daughter. I actually sent my daughter to Jason Beardsley when he was at Hidden Hills because I didn't want to teach my daughter anymore once she got to be about 13. But all of those sports, soccer, footwork, wonderful. Girls softball, hand-eye coordination. I mean, and then tennis. I think those are a natural segue when you get athletic kids. And there's a difference between athletic kids and some kids that may not be as athletic. The ones that are not, get them into different sports. Allow them to get better. It's a progression, guys, in all sports, frankly, not just tennis.
Okay, Carrie, wrap it up with other sports. Carrie, you still there? Did I lose her?
She's frozen.
She's
Very curious. So there's one other comment from Al. It says parents are the biggest challenge and they can be the biggest obstacle. So I just want to bring that to everybody and just kind of expand on that. So how do we keep parents' expectations in check?
Trey, you and I have had this conversation, and I think this is why JTT is a huge step for kids. Parents need to realize that their kid is, in all probability, not going to be Roger Federer. And you've been to my facility and you know the fence there. I don't let parents onto the court. No parents are allowed to comment during the matches in JTT other than to clap and applaud and such. They need to realize that the coaches are the ones that are doing that on court. We can't control what happens afterwards, but it's almost a coach's responsibility to say, guys, you can't do that, or this is not allowed, and get the parents built up because it's only going to get worse. I mean, I have a story where I had a 6-year-old child playing orange ball, and this child's parents walks up to me after the event. When do you think my kid's going to be ready to play yellow ball events? This child could not serve and was barely able to keep the ball in play. And yet he had unrealistic, ideas of where his child was going to be. So,
Okay, I think Carrie is back. Just unmute yourself, Carrie, and just tell us, wrap it up for us about playing other sports.
Basketball. I mean, it's a 360 sport. It's send and receive in a faster, slower motion. But I think basketball is fabulous. It's cardio. It's trying to figure out both sides of your body, trying to figure out offense, defense, where's the ball. It's fast motion, basketball. I love my basketball players.
Well, anyways, we ran out of time. I could just go on forever with you guys, but I appreciate everyone's time, because it is, they make their income being on court, except on rain days.
or fog days.
Fog days too, right, Joe? So we'd love to I'll send out a survey. I think there's a lot of interest in this part. And we also have some resources at the USTA, a play facilitator training that talks about working with younger kids. And there's also a coach workshop too that I highly recommend that goes over working again with red, orange, green. And I learned a lot from that. Less talking, more showing. So that's going to be my motto from now on. And with that, thank you, everyone. I appreciate all your time, and we hope to see you at a future webinar.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay,
Thanks,
take
Thanks,
care.
Chris.